Hey everybody, and welcome to another one of my little post-lockdown chats. When the lockdown started, I realized that business for a lot of us was going to be supremely different. And I started doing a series of mini little advice videos. They're about 2 or 3 minutes long. Now I'm looking at talking to people who are challenging and finding new approaches to how business people can respond to the new economic world that we find ourselves in. And today I'm joined by Cath Vincent.
Hi everyone, great to be here. Thanks, Rebecca.
Thank you. Tell the listeners just a little bit about yourself.
So I am a motivational speaker. You might have seen me speak at a conference, and I also host my own TV show, which is called The Cath Vincent Show, which airs on Sky TV. And the common theme of everything I do is to have people live their best every day, be operating at maximum energy, confidence and motivation.
Which is marvellous, except that we've all just been chopped off at the knees by a very unexpected, pandemic. Rolling back to how I could be the best I possibly can be, and perhaps forgetting how we are today, but how we were in the past, you've encapsulated this into a really neat little phrase. What is my wow?
Yeah, so when I speak about waking up your wow. And, they do say that you teach what you need to learn. and I guess probably 10 years ago, I was a consultant. I was a bit kind of trapped in the work that I was doing. I saw that people weren't really changing. We could get good results for a bit. And then when I would leave, people's behaviors would go back. And I thought, what is that? Like, why do we try and do stuff and then not be able to do it? Why do we say we're going to go to the gym and then fail to get out of bed? And it's a human kind of characteristic that stops us living the happy, fulfilled life that we want. And so I really set to work on unpicking that and understanding it. And I studied widely and I interviewed a bunch of people. And what I came up with was a means to wake up your wow. And for a lot of us, we operate pretty well. It's 7 out of 10, maybe even 8 out of 10. But there's always a little wrinkle of something you wish for, but you somehow don't have permission to do it. You haven't given yourself permission to do it.
That's really interesting, because I can definitely empathize with that. When I'm working, I do B2B marketing and I go into businesses. One of the things that you often start with an enormous enthusiasm, this sort of wave of energy of how can we do things differently? How can we start a new project or a new program? And then, of course, things decline over time. And it was actually brought to mind with a client I was with yesterday, who I kicked off doing a podcast. And the podcast is deeply technical and really interesting if you're in that particular space. And the client's getting under immense time pressure for a couple of reasons. One is lots of client work, and the other is a successful media career that's beginning. But both of those time pressures mean that the ability to do the everyday that we had been running with for a while, like a customer newsletter, we need to have an event, which we obviously postponed because of lockdown, but can we do the event again? And you can see this sort of flicker of fear that goes behind their eyes. And so I made a suggestion as to how to find that small place where you can smooth out the wrinkle, where they're operating in a place that they enjoy and where they have sort of control over the outcome. And so I said, look, instead of worrying about writing articles, which I was guessing was the challenge, why don't you just record them as if it's your podcast? Don't broadcast it. Get it transcribed. Ta-da! There's your first draft of the article, which we can then edit. And he hasn't taken me up on it yet, but I thought that was brilliant at the time.
But you hit the nail on the head there. What you said is, people start doing things and then the activities kind of decline. And that's how we are with stuff. That's how we are with our New Year's resolutions. We're like, awesome, I'm going to be so fit. I'm going to run every day, whatever it is. And then it declines over time. And I often think of it like, do you remember those things of bubbles you used to get? A little kind of container, and you kind of take
blow bubbles.
Right? And they're there, and they're shiny and lovely, and they look amazing. And then you kind of forget they ever happened. I mean, they're kind of gone in a nanosecond. And the trick really is to keep your dreams alive, or to keep your habits alive. And so if you think of the idea of starting running or going to the gym, what makes you do it for the first 3 days is novelty. Yeah. Right? It's not, ooh, this is different. And then after a period of time, what keeps you going is progress.
Yes.
But there's a gap between the first 3 days of novelty and then the point at which progress will kick in. And that is what has people kind of give up on things. And the problem is that what that causes is this kind of residue, this feeling of, you know, oh, I don't really follow through on things, or not, I'm not a good person. You know, there's a kind of self-dialogue, and we all have it, no matter how motivated we are, no matter how shiny we are. And we all look at other people and think, oh, they must be so much better than I am. But everyone has that dialogue saying, you're not doing what you said, or you're not doing enough.
There's definitely a, you know, the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other thing that goes on.
And sometimes two devils, you know.
So one of the things that I have experienced in my own life, I do a lot of sport, and I run a business that is sports coaching programs for older athletes. And one of the things that I have observed that transitions that point that you very accurately described between the novelty and the progress is community. And I have built an online Facebook group. If you're into rowing, please come and join the Masters Rowing International Facebook group. If you're not, don't worry. But the community is a reasonable place for a lot of people to reignite their motivation. And it's often done not through, hey, Cath, how are you going? And did you do your workout? It's done through, here is a lovely photograph that I took when I was exercising. And it makes you think, oh, it was lovely this morning. I could have seen a photograph just like that, but with my view. And it's so subtle that I think people don't realize that actually it is a manipulation. It is a deliberate manipulation. But that community feeling makes you feel good. Until you can see the progress.
Totally. And you know, when you say deliberate manipulation, right, it sounds like it could be a bad thing. And in actual fact, deliberate manipulation is a great thing. So whatever you're trying to negotiate with yourself, because it's kind of a negotiation, taking your, you know, angel and devil, right? Whatever you're trying to negotiate, you know, hey, let's go running. Nah, let's not. Right? That's what you're trying to negotiate. What you want to weave in is, to use that extraordinary phrase, deliberate manipulations. How do I make myself like this? So community is a great one. I go to Run Club because there's a club, right?
And they'll notice if you're not there.
I know, and they clap when you come running.
Really?
In. They really do.
I need to join Run Club.
And not because you're near the front, because you're near the back. You know?
It's because you finished it.
And I love that. And then you get a cup of tea and a biscuit. So the experience of running is forever altered, because it actually means support, camaraderie, you know, expression of self and all those things. So find those deliberate manipulations. You know, sometimes for people, it's ticking it off a list. We really like that.
Person.
Yeah.
And then I like scrunching the list up and throwing it in the bin.
Starting with the new one.
There's always two things I don't finish, but I think that's also a sign from the universe that you were never meant to do them. It's usually a tax return. Now, moving on to lockdown. So you're such a bubbly, positive person. Like the rest of us, you were equally affected. What were the positive things that you managed to pull out of the hideous 7 weeks that we spent?
And, you know, I know it is incredibly difficult for so many people. So I hesitate a little bit, but when I say that I actually really enjoyed the first 4 weeks. For the first week, we had family time, we cooked really nice meals, we watched Netflix as a family, and, you know, the dog's lying on the sofa with us. It was just really nice. You know, I felt like I had a week's holiday. And then recognizing, you know, for people who are at home with young kids, or, you know, trapped, not with family, in any number of scenarios, I kind of got to thinking, wow, this is incredibly hard for people, and it's going to go on a long time.
It is.
So I wanted to have something to show for my time. And so what I did was I created an online course, and it's called Learn from Lockdown. And it's basically, how do you manage your mindset when you're not in control of things the way you used to be? And so it's got a bunch of kind of tools in there and a little workbook. And I didn't know how to make the course. I was like, well, I don't really know how to do this. So I just, researched platforms, and then I created my content, and then I filmed it, and then I kind of sent it out. And it was like a big risk.
Oh, yeah.
It was like, I just put out this thing. And I've been absolutely blown away by the comments, the feedback, the number of people who've registered. And I'm really proud of it. Like I think that is the bit of contribution that I could make. It's completely free, so no one has to pay for it. And I think using your time, particularly when you're not in control, saying, okay, well, I can't do exactly what I want, but I can always do something. I think that's quite important.
Talk us through the content. So I brought it up on screen here.
Okay, cool. So I need to put my glasses on. Now you've exposed me.
Apart from the hello and welcome bit.
So basically there's 5 steps, and it really embraces it. The starting point is to embrace that what is certain in your life is change. They talk about there being 2 things certain in life. It was Benjamin Franklin, I think, who said this, being death and taxes. But in fact, change is what's certain in life. So really it is to teach people the tools to cope with change. And then it goes through basically 5 steps where you create for yourself like what your experience of lockdown was, and then you draw a line under it. And what you do is you start to use the tools to create a happiness habit.
Ooh, I like the sound of that.
Now, people don't typically think of happiness as a habit, but it is just like a muscle that, like you can exercise at the gym.
Yeah.
You just basically exercise it and keep exercising it. So there's all of the content in there helps you develop that. And the feedback that I've had from people has been like, oh, I felt so blah this morning. Blah. Very expressive email I got. I felt so blah this morning. And then your content kind of lifted me. And we have that. It's not really what I'm doing, but we have that ability to lift ourselves every day. But we typically don't. We are more in the habit of sliding into the day the way it is, thinking the way that we think, and not really addressing it. And so if all you did was you paid attention to how you felt in the morning and gave that a little bit of exercise, you would be a lot happier.
That is a great insight. Well, I look forward to hearing a lot more about that and giving it a whirl. The URL is on the screen there. And for folks who want it, we'll put it in the show notes as well. But it's wakeupyourwow.teachable.com.
Yeah, so Teachable is a platform, and it's really awesome because you can watch one lecture at a time. They call them lectures, but they're like 3 to 5 minute videos, maybe 10 minutes is the most. So you can dip in and out. You don't think, oh, goodness, I've got to sit down for this marathon. And so, you can easily do it in a weekend, just give yourself the gift of a bit of time to really get your head straight and, feel good for the next phase, basically.
And in order to keep motivated, do it with a friend.
Yeah, and do you know what? That is a great idea. That picks up exactly what you said about, camaraderie, like your sports buddy, your community, all of that. So yeah, that's a great idea as well.
So who needs a bit of lockdown wow?
Everybody.
Oh,
we all do.
Okay, well, let's stop that. I'll ring the Prime Minister right now.
And actually, I want to be really clear that I don't wake up like this every day. I don't leap out of bed going, yay, I'm a motivator. Oh, do you?
Yeah, I do.
You probably do.
I'm a morning person.
You always look like that when I see you.
That's because I brush my hair.
But, so it is an act of generating who you want to be in your life. And I mean, you must find that across your clients that, the happiness factor impacts their ability to do good work.
It's definitely true that if you're unhappy, it's incredibly hard to focus on anything. And even if particularly if the unhappiness is not vocalized, sometimes I sense it. And sometimes I confess I don't. It's not necessarily front of mind, and people who are unhappy or unsatisfied, which I think is a type of unhappiness, are often very good at concealing it. I have a particular girlfriend who is long-term unhappy. She's not depressed, she's not a clinical, but she is not personally fulfilled. And when people talk and they're animated, I often stop myself now and say, what is it they're talking about now? This thing makes them happy. And often it's pets, actually, for her. She's a cat lover. And she talks often about, and so I choose to engage with her on the level of where she demonstrates happiness. And particularly one of the challenges in that particular sense. We have a personal friend who doesn't want help. And when help is offered, it's usually pushed away. So I don't bother offering the help. I just offer the presence. And I was taught a really good lesson by a friend who said, well, if you're ever speaking to someone, for example, who has a long-term illness, a great question to ask is, how are you now? Or how was last night? Or how was this morning? Or how was your lunch? So it's very immediate and short, short term. How are you is the wrong question to ask.
Yeah, totally.
You know, so asking, how did yesterday go? And that's the way to approach things, because it allows them to focus on something that's small enough that actually you'll probably get a detailed answer that gives you more information than I'm fine, which is the traditional English response to almost any inquiry about your well-being.
It's really annoying, isn't it? You know, I'm fine. Oh, good. You know, so when I ask people, how's your wow? What I mean is something completely different, because I'm asking about the energy, I'm asking about the confidence, and I'm asking about the motivation. And even if you have cancer, you can have wow in the moment. Yeah. You can go, you know what, I've got cancer, but actually, you know, I'm thriving today, or I'm really enjoying being with my family today. Or and actually my sister died of cancer a few years back. And she made it, she had a 2-year kind of dash at life, and she made it her mission to, like her job, her daily job, to be super motivated.
Wow. You know, what a lesson to the rest of us.
I know. She would watch like the Rocky movies and she'd be all like, whoa, like, wow, incredible person. So, you know, we can all be that.
We certainly can. And I did notice, particularly when lockdown started, how many people that I knew personally decided to immediately give back,
totally.
To find a way of contributing. I think the interesting challenge for that was that the people who had the need often didn't find the offer. And that was a puzzle to me as a marketer. How do we match these things up? And what do you do if you don't know that there might be an answer out there for what you're particularly facing? Because I think when you're very close to a problem, you often misdiagnose it.
Yeah.
So for myself, I'm not a financial person in terms of business. And so anything financial, it's very easy to pull the wool over my eyes, or for me not to see clarity. But someone who's a financial person will immediately make a more accurate diagnosis than I'm ever likely to.
Yeah, yeah. So what are you seeing now with your clients in things like marketing, where, you know, people are a bit kind of up in arms about, oh goodness, I'm not really sure where business is going, I'm not sure how to generate business. How's that impacting, you know, marketing for people?
So I think there are two quick responses. People stop it entirely and just go, we must conserve cash. Or they double down on the bits that are effective. That is a better response, but if you don't have the money, you then have to do it through your own efforts, which then leads people to educational content. Yeah. So actually what I did when lockdown happened was I started doing every 2 or 3 days a really mini little video, which I put on my LinkedIn and also on this YouTube channel, in which I tried to give some really practical advice that if someone wanted to do something today, here was something you can do.
Yeah, I like that.
It wasn't a structured training course. It was very much a response to a situation that I had recently been dealing with, and what could you do? So there was a great example of, if you've maybe, you know, sent out a newsletter and you can see who's clicked through to have a look at your product, but they didn't buy. Manually write to each one of them and say, I see you had a look at the whatever.
Yeah.
You know, have you got any questions?
Yeah.
And we did this with one of my clients, and they immediately made 3 sales.
Wow.
Just like that.
Wow.
And it was just because they followed up, and they then also asked a very open question, which was, and tell me a little bit about you. And what's interesting is human beings mostly love talking about themselves. Yeah. This was written in an email rather than spoken. And they tell you the most lovely and slightly surprising things.
Yeah.
You know, that helps you to better contextualize them.
Yeah.
It has got nothing to do with sales.
Yeah.
And everything to do with making friends with people.
Yeah.
And people buy from people they know, like, and trust, which is, you know, a mantra. And you've revealed you've given them a space to reveal a bit about themselves, and suddenly they feel much more trusting towards you.
Yeah.
And it's a very weird thing, because in fact, you haven't done anything extraordinary.
Yeah.
They've actually taken the step themselves, but you've created a situation.
I like the way that you break that down, because I think people do get a bit nervous about sales if they think they've got to persuade anyone or that kind of thing. And I think what's interesting, what you said about marketing, is very often we think that we've got to have everything sorted before we can take action. So I've got to have my entire marketing strategy before I can do anything. And then you send a little mailer going, well, why don't you just do this one thing? And someone gets 3 sales. And very often needing to have the whole picture complete and the whole picture perfect stops us from taking any action at all. So I love that, just saying, well, just do this one thing,
And that's why we're here today. I've just realized this. So I sent out a message saying, is there anything I can do to help you? And Cath wrote back and said, I've written this wonderful training course.
But it is so interesting, the conversations you have with people, you've got no idea where they're going to go. So if you're in a position right now where maybe you're feeling a bit stagnant in yourself and or feeling stagnant in your business, pick up the phone to somebody. Like, you've got no idea what they're going to tell you. None. And I love that. I'm
a great believer in open questions, and a really good open question is, what happened this morning in business? And people puzzle as to why you might ask that. But when I ask those questions, and particularly if I'm in sales mode, I am listening for things that might be painful for them. What they call them, pain points. But have they given me a totally positive anecdote about what happened this morning?
Yeah.
Or can you deduce that perhaps there is something that's not quite right, or an uncertainty?
Yeah.
And that's your opportunity to ask more questions. And there is a rule of thumb that you need to go 3 layers deep. That you can almost ask the same question 3 times. How are you? No, how are you? No, how are you?
Yeah.
And when you get to that 3rd time where you're almost asking the same question, but saying, well, give me an example, or I don't quite understand, can you explain it further? A lot of people haven't always articulated, even in their own minds, what the problem is. And by talking to you, they are doing the thinking.
Yeah.
And they might be surprised at what's come out of their mouth. But actually, because they've said it and vocalized it, and it's on the table, it's like facing the bogeyman under the bed, isn't it? Once you know that Monsters Inc. is real and there is a bogeyman, no, I'm joking. Once you have vocalized the challenge, it's then possible to scale it and to understand whether it is really a gigantic world changer, or actually it's something that's smaller, or an elephant that you can eat in small mouthfuls, or something that can be broken down and challenged and worked on. Those things, I think, are the art of conversation. So maybe I should start a new business called The Art of Conversation as Applied to Marketing.
Oh, brilliant. Well, you heard it here first. This is Rebecca's new business. Awesome. It's so right, though, that we actually typically know the answers ourselves anyway. And to have a person have the generosity to ask you 3 times, and the listening to then, prompt another question, is a gift that we really appreciate. So often people are, half listening, and they're kind of on their devices. Oh, do you have a good day? Oh, great. Yeah, lovely. And if you can really listen to people, it is such a gift that it strikes people as extraordinary. So, maybe some extra listening would be the thing to do today.
I've been working on my listening for such a long time. I'm such a chatterbox. It's hard.
Same. And you and I got together this morning. Oh, hi! Chat. But, there's, every kind of person makes up the world, but listening skills have been in short supply. So it's definitely, a sales skill to have. You hear where people are in pain, and really all sales is a solution to a problem or a means to achieve a dream. That's it. It's one or the other.
I'm going for the dream.
Yeah.
Cath, thank you for giving me your time, your expertise. I hope you guys follow through. Go take a look at Cath's website and have a look at her program. Now tell the listeners where they can get a hold of you.
So I'm at Cath, C-A-T-H, at cathvincent.com. And I ever get. So please, if you're struggling with anything and you just feel like, a little bit of a nudge or a question could prompt an action from you, just send me an email. I'll be totally happy to send you a personal reply.
Well, how about that for an offer for today? I'm Rebecca Caro. You can find me at creativeagencysecrets.com. If you want to know about the recession marketing, it's just /recession at the end of the URL. And till next time, goodbye.
Goodbye.